It is day 206. Take a breath on that, of the second Trump administration, and we are just 2 days away from the president's one-on-one meeting with Russia's President Vladimir Putin that's going to take place in Alaska. This morning, Trump joined an emergency call with European allies that included Ukrainian President Zelensky. NBC News is reporting the president said he does not intend to discuss any possible divisions of territory with Putin, according to 2 European officials and 3 other people briefed on the call. His goal is to secure a ceasefire in Ukraine. Our own Richard Engel has the details.
Today, President Trump listened to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky and European allies, who told him what they hope will come out of the Alaska meeting and what they hope to avoid. On the call, Zelensky, along with the leaders of France, the UK, NATO, Italy, Poland, Finland, and others, said they advised President Trump not to make any sweeping peace deal with Putin that changes Ukraine's borders without Ukraine in the room. Zelensky was not invited to Alaska.
How were your calls this morning with European leaders, and was it your call not to invite President Zelensky to your meeting with Putin?
No, just the opposite. No. We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10.
President Trump said another meeting could follow Friday's summit with Putin and didn't rule out Zelensky joining that one.
There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first.
Adding if Putin doesn't agree to end the war,
there will be very severe consequences.
After more than 3 years of fighting, Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine. A peace deal could see Ukraine forced to surrender some or most of that territory. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz said Ukraine is willing to make territorial concessions. He didn't say where or how much. We want the negotiations to proceed in the right order. A ceasefire must come first, he said. President Zelensky remains deeply skeptical. He said he told President Trump today that Putin is bluffing, playing for time, and that he still wants to occupy all of Ukraine, even if he agrees to meet in the name of peace.
All right, let's get excited. We have a fantastic nightcap with us. NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor. Tim Miller in the flesh, host of the Bulwark podcast and former communications director for Republican Jeb Bush. Daniel Coe making his first visit to the 11th hour, former White House Deputy Cabinet Secretary for the Biden administration. He is also the host of the People's Cabinet podcast, which I recently had the privilege of being on. And look who's back. You wish. Pablo Torre, ESPN analyst and host of the Meadowlark Media's Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast. And I'm just going to tell you, Pablo and I had a supreme experience together on this podcast. Yes,
that's
we
right.
certainly did.
That's right.
We certainly did. All right.
You're next.
But none of you are starting. Yamiche, of course, is. Yamiche, it seems like the administration was trying to reassure Ukraine today. What have you heard from the White House ahead of this meeting besides the president calling it a 10 out of 10?
Well, President Trump does seem to be trying to really temper expectations and also reassure not just Ukraine, but also European leaders. Our reporting is, as you pointed out, that he's not going to discuss any territory divisions or potential territory divisions with Russia at this meeting. He also told European leaders that he was agreeing to push for a ceasefire deal first, meaning the stopping of all fighting, and then a longer-term peace deal. He also talked about possibly sanctioning Russia if he didn't feel like Russia was moving forward in a progressive way toward a ceasefire or a peace deal. These are, of course, European leaders and Ukraine who are very worried that President Trump was going to get into a room with Vladimir Putin, work out a sort of semi-deal or framework of a deal that included possibly giving away parts of this sovereign country of Ukraine, and then would have tried to maybe pressure Ukraine into agreeing to that. What we are reporting is that he's assured them that that's not what he's going to do. Of course, it'll be very interesting to see what actually happens. The other thing to note is that the president essentially said and agreed that Ukraine has to be at the table for there to be a really long-term peace deal, which is key because, as you pointed out, the president said, and he said today, that he had no intention of having Ukraine at this first meeting, but that he said almost immediately there could be a second meeting if he likes what he hears from President Putin.
Daniel, I can't even believe that I'm saying Putin and good faith in the same sentence. But Russia is trying to invade, to go deeper into Ukraine ahead of this meeting on Friday. So is this even remotely in good faith on Putin's part?
Absolutely not. All of this has been all terms set by Putin, right? I've been to Elmendorf Air Force Base. There's 10,000 people on that base. But it wasn't Trump choosing that base to show patriotism, to rile up people there. It was Putin who chose that spot, right? The State Department just released their human rights report for this year. They cut the human rights abuses section of Russia in half. This is a consistent trend with Donald Trump, whether it be sending him a COVID test when people were dying in America, whether what he said today about the hack of court systems, right? This is all terms at a time and place of Putin's choosing. This is not someone who's in control, our president, and we just see it time and time again.
Take what Daniel just laid out. Jonathan Bolton said it earlier this week that Putin's already won. Michael McFaul told us that last night. Do you agree?
Yeah, look, the theater of foreign policy is always more important to Donald Trump than the actual foreign policy.
And he's very fired up at these criticisms that Putin already won.
Yes, and the whole idea that Vladimir Putin, who is, as aforementioned, Vladimir Putin, he gets the photo op in America. And so, look, what's underneath all of this, right? This is a very complicated story. Geopolitics, all of that is true. At the core of this is Donald Trump wanting a Nobel Peace Prize. And he wants it because Obama got one, and he wants it because he has pledged to all of his people, all of the people who care about such things, I suppose, that he's going to bring an end to all wars. And he has not done it. Vladimir Putin has won in that one-on-one kind of context at every step. And here is a photo op that feels like a defeat already.
Then doesn't Putin have everything to gain and nothing to lose here? But Trump, on the other hand, could lose a lot if he walks away with nothing. Yeah, and I warn you before you start, both of these gentlemen went to Harvard, so the bar's high.
So trust me, Pablo mentions it to me every time we have lunch. And all of his Peabody Awards.
How dare you?
Look, here's what Putin has to lose. Because, as Pablo mentioned, Trump wants the Nobel Peace Prize. The only way for Putin to get on the wrong side of Trump is for Trump to feel like Putin is undermining that effort, right? And so we had this first 9 months where Trump said we're going to get a resolution on day one, didn't happen. And then there was a period of, 6 months where it seemed like he was basically doing Putin's bidding. And then eventually the peace never happened. There's been unconscionable amount of damage happening in Kyiv and in Kherson, and there have been unnecessary deaths. And eventually, finally Trump, and it sounded like even Melania, were like, WTF? Like, where's my peace prize? I was giving you everything you wanted. I thought this was going to be over. That was the impetus for this meeting. So what Putin is trying to do here at this meeting is buy more time, kick the can down the road, offer Trump more fig leaves. And I think the only way for Putin to lose here is for it to come away in some kind of conflict where Trump feels like he's not going to get this big toy, this big prize that he wants. And as long as Putin kind of plays to his ego, gives him what he wants, makes Zelensky the bad guy, then I think that he's going to get whatever he wants.
Okay, but in 2018, we all remember the fallout, Yamiche, from that Helsinki meeting between Trump and Putin. It wasn't good. Does the White House hold any space for the idea that this thing really could backfire? I realize we're not talking about Jeffrey Epstein, so they've won the headline race in that regard, but this thing sure ain't foolproof.
Well, I'm not picking up any concern from White House officials that they think that this is going to backfire because the president has really set expectations so low. He's essentially saying, I'm going in there to feel out President Putin. I've had a couple conversations with him, but I really want to see him face to face and know if he's interested in peace. And if he's not, I'm going to walk away. So their idea is that this is really the president trying to make a deal and trying to put all his efforts to really try to fulfill this campaign promise. And then if he walks away, he says, look, I tried my best. I was there in 2018 during that Helsinki summit between President Trump and President Putin. And the thing that stuck with me was how demure President Trump was during that press conference, how conciliatory he was to President Putin in that moment. I remember him taking the side of Russia when he was asked specifically if he believed Russia when they were saying that the U.S. intelligence agencies were wrong and that they weren't meddling in the 2016 election. President Trump sided with Vladimir Putin, and he was also sort of quiet. His tone was different. We all know him as this brash, loud person. But in that moment, in that room, it was really different to see President Trump. So in that moment, so it's going to be really interesting to see not only what happens in the meeting, but the tone that President Trump strikes after the meeting. There is sort of a warning there because you have President Trump possibly speaking to the media afterwards. And if he again looks like he's being conciliatory to President Putin, that's going to look bad for him, I think, objectively, even if you're a Republican who wants this meeting to go well. So the president wants to come out feeling like he's strong and wants to come out looking like he's strong, Stephanie.